For my entire adult life, I have been an anthropologist and been involved in conservation work. In WWF, we have a common saying: conservation without funding is merely a
Conversation.
it's just
Alright.
conversation. It means talk only, no action.
New season, new topics, new guests, and new studio. This is Pandangan Panda Season 2. And this beautiful recording studio is brought to you by Podworks. If you are planning to start your own podcast, check them out on their website and social media. So if you have been following us on Pandangan Panda Season 1, we talk everything about WWF Malaysia, our four main wildlife species, the Harimau Malaya, the Bornean elephant, the marine turtles, and orangutan. Besides that, we also talk about different programs in WWF Malaysia, such as our Sustainable Markets Program, our Sabah Landscape Program, our Sarawak Conservation Program, Education for Sustainable Development, and many more. And to open Pandangan Panda Season 2, we will be discussing more about WWF Malaysia's 2021-2030 Strategic Roadmap. And you can find that document in our website www.wwf.org.my. And for this opening episode, we are with someone who is very special and it's really hard to get his schedule. Our one and only Dr. Henry Chan, Senior Director of Strategic Conservation Partnership. Prior to this, he was our Senior Director of Conservation. Hello, Dr. Henry, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. So, Dr. Henry, before we start, like all our guests, can you just share with us how did you start your conservation journey?
Yes, Justin, thank you very much. So this was way back in 1984 or 85. I was just after my high school. Those days we have the STPM, or HSC examination. So I went back home and I followed my friends who were from the church, and we visited a very remote longhouse called Long Bulan, which is like 2 days boat journey from the last town of the river called the Balaga town. And there it was a beautiful place right in the middle of the forest with rapids and a nice river. But the people then told me, Henry, we are going to be resettled because of the Bakun Dam. And we will be resettled somewhere that is completely unfamiliar with us. So at that point in time, I decided to take up anthropology as my study. So ever since, my undergraduate days, I took up social anthropology. For my master's, I did Masters of Philosophy, but focused on anthropology. And for my PhD, I took up anthropology as well, with a focus on human ecology. So for my entire adult life, I have been an anthropologist and been involved in conservation work.
So you have been in conservation like more than 40 years, right? So it has been an incredible journey. So do you have I'm sure you have some moments that is very meaningful to you. Maybe can you share some of those moments?
Okay, so as an anthropologist, I studied on the human ecology, focusing on the nomadic people called the Punan. But since 1970s, they have not been nomadic. They have settled down. So the moment that was really of excitement to me was when, at that time, I was working with Sarawak Forestry Corporation. This was about 2010. WWF came to us and invited us to collaborate on a project called Assessing High Conservation Value Forest Toolkit, called the SCV Toolkit. And we did that in an area where there are still nomadic Penan living there. So for 2 weeks, I lived with them. I learned about the hunting and gathering thing. We learned about how they process sago for their livelihood. For 2 weeks, I lived in I would say, it's like a Garden of Eden.
Right.
With nice forest, clean water, and people living in the nature. So that moment was a point that I really cherish.
Wow, I think we should have a separate podcast to just talk about, that 40 years journey with Dr. Henry. Okay, but Dr. Henry, for this episode, right, we'll be talking about the WWF Malaysia's 2021-2030 Strategic Roadmap.
Yep.
I understand that you are one of the key drivers behind this roadmap. Can you share how did this roadmap was developed back then?
So, in fact, this started back in 2017 when I was appointed as a director for conservation. And my very first task was to look into and to lead a team to develop a new strategy, a 10-year strategy. We have a 2011 to 2020 strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So by 2017, we are already preparing ourselves for the next decade, beginning in 2021. So I led a team to look into that. But at that point, as we approach towards 2020, WWF as a global network, we also undertaking and going through a huge review. And we have embraced a campaign called a New Deal for People and Nature. So what does it mean? The idea is that we would like, as a global organization, to work with the global communities, the governments of the world, and so forth, to prepare for the next decade of 2020s, to 2030. At that point, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, some of the goals are coming to maturity. So they were looking at adopting new indicators and targets. We have the Paris Agreement on climate coming to force. 2015 was the year when the governments in Paris signed off the Paris Agreement. And we have also the Convention on Biological Diversity coming for a new decade called the Global Biodiversity Framework. So we as an organization, we have embraced the New Deal for People and Nature. And WWF-Malaysia actually led that. We brought our colleagues from around the world and we hosted the event in Kuala Lumpur in our office. So in that sense, it gives us thinking ahead, how do we prepare ourselves? So the New Deal for People and Nature comprises three key elements. It's known as zero, zero, half. Zero species extinction, zero loss of habitat, and reducing our footprint by half. So this is our goal for the 2020, the emissions conventions happening around the world. So we framed our vision statement as reverse the loss of nature and transform Malaysia to be a sustainable nation by 2030. Now, the second part of the vision statement, transforming Malaysia into a sustainable nation, is something that we are hoping for and that it will benefit the rest of Malaysia. Because the first part of the vision statement on reversing the loss of biodiversity is something that we have to do anyway. But it must resonate with our fellow Malaysians outside there.
Right. Okay. So has you were saying and I was saying in the introduction, right? WWF Malaysia, we have various stakeholders where we collaborate together, we work together, right? So to achieve this vision, which we have just mentioned, who are the key stakeholders that are involved?
So at that point, this is around 2019, 2020, as we were finalizing our strategy. So this vision requires what today we call the whole of society approach. Everybody
Correct.
in the country needs to be involved. So who are they? For us, there are five categories of stakeholders, and they are as follow. So number one, it would be people living on the ground, people who are affected by the loss of biodiversity,
Like the communities.
like the local communities, and who benefit from the conservation of biodiversity. They are primarily the Orang Aslis in Peninsular Malaysia, the Orang Ulu and the Dayak in Sarawak, and the Orang Laut living who in the coastal areas of the Sabah waters. So that's number one, people who will benefit directly from a better environment. Number two is a private sectors. So our government has given concessions and licenses for them to extract natural resources such as timber and converting forests into palm oil plantation. So we need this private sector so that they will manage the natural resources properly, and so that, for example, the environment is better managed, wildlife can be conserved by them, and land can be set aside as wildlife corridors to connect the fragmented forests. So this is the second one. And the third is we need to work with governments, because they are the ones who set policies and make decisions pertaining to the environment. So we work across, at both the federal and the states ministers, various government agencies and statutory bodies. They are empowered by law to protect, to regulate, and to manage the environment. The fourth area would be people like you, Justin, who are at one time youth,
Yeah.
who went to school.
Yeah.
So they are our future leaders.
Right.
Now imagine if our future leaders, who are CEOs and chairmen of companies, who are head of departments and ministers, and if they love the environment, if they have deep concern for nature, you can imagine what transformation Malaysia will undergo. Yeah. So future leaders are very crucial. And lastly, would be the masses. Yeah. So it's very important that we involve the people outside there, because it is them that matters. So governments make decision on things they are important to the public. Yeah. So the way we engage the public is through um, events like this, podcasts, having television shows, radio talk shows, letters to the editor, opinion pieces, and so forth, so that we can help form public opinion. We act as thought leaders to ensure that things that are not seen as important to them will become important, and and therefore become national priority. So the government will act on these issues. So
Right.
these are the five categories of stakeholders that
Right.
can help us achieve the vision we have for
Right.
Malaysia.
Okay, Dr. Henry. So when it comes to, like roadmap strategy, like this 2021, 2030 roadmap strategy, right? I'm sure there must be like a key indicator, like a baseline that, like shape the whole document. So perhaps you can just share with us what were the priorities when you did this document.
Before I answer your question about baseline indicators, let me go back, to our strategy. So we have 10 goals that define, what a sustainable Malaysia is. And using the new deal for people and nature, we can cluster them into three parts, which is zero extinction for species, zero habitat loss, and the third one is reduce by half, our footprint. So under the first new deal for people and nature goal, which is zero extinction of species, we actually embrace only one goal, 1 out of 10, which is to safeguard our species. So our forest rangers, like the Orange List, whom we engage with, will patrol the forest to remove snares that trap them for the international wildlife trade. And we work with government and just agencies, such as the police, the wildlife department, and so forth, by providing intelligence so that they can, arrest those involved in the wildlife trade. Um, because this is of international dimension, so we need to work with Interpol, the international police, using the AMLA, the Anti-Money Laundering Act, where using the act they can trace financial flows across nations. So all this requires intelligence. With ensuring that the forest is well protected from traps and snares, we then monitor our wildlife through camera traps. With the information they will obtain, we then analyze the population health of these species. So in the Belum Tamago landscape, our key indicators would be snares, the number of snares, traps, they will trap the animals. And the second indicator would be the number of tiger populations living in the area. Another example will be in Sabah, where we monitor the growth of the population of the orangutan. So back in about 2010, our colleagues had already done an analysis of the orangutan population. We use helicopter, fly over forested areas where we know have orangutan, and from the nest that we find through nest decay analysis, we then estimate the population. So back in 2020, the population was 11,000. So these are some of the indicators that we use for wildlife. Under the zero habitat loss, which is actually natural habitat, which is actually forest, we help our government to establish at least 50% of our forests under various categories of protected areas, forest reserve, and so forth. Back in about 2020, some 48% of our forest has been legislated. So it's just 2% more left to go. So we're working on that. Then we under the reducing our footprint by half. Here we have three strategies. And we look at how can we reduce our GHG emissions. So the baseline here would be how Malaysia reports to the United Nations on climate change, or what we call the biennial update report. We look at every 2 years, we look at how much carbon we are releasing from the different sectors and so forth. Apart from helping our country to combat climate change through building a resilient Malaysia. On plastic leaking into nature, now plastic is a big issue, because when they flood, when the plastic bags float into the seas, yeah, they resemble jellyfish. And jellyfish is a food eaten by our turtles. So, we had to reduce the plastics pollution through what we call extended producer responsibility, where we work with the producers through the entire life cycle to process and recycle the plastics. And this works through public laws, yeah. And lastly, we engage with financial institutions such as banks and institutional investors to adopt ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, yeah, where we hope we move the institutions to ensure that the private sector will act more responsibly towards the environment and to conserve biodiversity. So these are the different goals and indexes that we use, yeah, to define how Malaysia can be a sustainable nation.
Right. Right. So the first one that Dr. Henry mentioned as safeguard our species, right? Soon it will be Global Tiger Day. So if you want to be involved in some of the events and activities that WWF Malaysia is organizing with our key stakeholders, check out our website www.wwf.org.my. All right, so Dr. Henry, as we speak, it's 2026. 5 years since the strategic roadmap was developed. So maybe you can share with us what are the major wins to date as we are like 50% in to the roadmap.
Yeah, I would just share two big wins that we have
Right.
achieved. Yeah, but how do we achieve the wins? I have to start by saying this. In WWF, we have a common saying: conservation without funding is merely a conservation.
Conversation.
Yeah, it's
All
just
right.
conversation. It means talk only, no action.
All right, that's
Yeah.
right.
And so big wins come with three sets of enabling conditions. Yeah.
Yes.
The first is we need human capital. People like you and I and our colleagues, yeah, and our staff with the right expertise and the passion to find and implement solutions, yeah, to combat the loss of biodiversity. Number two, we need social capital, which is working and building relationships with our stakeholders, yeah, so that they want WWF to be the partner to find solutions, yeah, on issues that confront them, and which they could not solve by themselves. And thirdly, of course, we need donors and philanthropy, as well as CSR foundations to give us funding to implement our projects. Yeah. To achieve all of this, we need a compelling framework where our people have the means and resources to achieve our big wins. So I just focus on three areas instead of two I mentioned earlier. So number one is that that framework that is very compelling is what we call the living landscape approach. You can actually Google in the YouTube what it is. But essentially, it is about we partner with major donors, government agencies, and plantation companies together to protect our natural habitats and establish wildlife corridors to reconnect the fragmented forests. So one example for the living landscape is the Tawau Konak landscape in Sabah, where we have Sabah Southwood setting aside more than 1,000 hectares of land as wildlife corridor. And just recently, we had an agreement with SDK 3 using its plantation land to establish 3 wildlife corridors for orangutan and elephants. The second example is the celebrated Bukit Piton, where we have restored 2,400 hectares of degraded land. Many years ago, the forest was so degraded, the government decided to convert it into palm oil. And our seniors then, before I joined WWF, actually advised the government, please protect it, we'll fundraise and we'll restore it because there's a population of orangutan living close by at Bukit Piton. And today, after some 10 to 15 years of forest restoration, we see how orangutan mothers and the babies have started to use this habitat for the livelihood. So to us, it's a real success story, and to us, it's a celebrated a case where even though land is degraded, we can still restore it back for conservation. The third thing is that the experience and the aspiration that we learned from the living landscape and Bukit Piton have inspired us to develop a global scale project called Reconnect Borneo. So Reconnect Borneo is look at the whole island of Borneo, where we have two countries, Brunei, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and we're looking at how we can connect the fragmented national parks and protected areas across the island into a few corridors. Yeah. So in the spaces between the national parks, we work with the forestry industries, the palm oil plantations, and local communities where we will then transform the landscape to be sustainable, and eventually wildlife corridors that we mentioned earlier can be set aside, yeah, by all these different sectors to connect all these fragmented protected areas across Borneo. This is a global scale project, and we have our entire WWF network from our European countries, from US and Japan, supporting us on this initiative.
All right. So, Dr. Henry, I know you have a lot to say about the living landscape approach, the protect, produce, restore, SD Guthrie, Sabah Soft Woods, but you have to keep it for the following episode because we're gonna have a special episode just about the work done in Sabah, in Tawau with the living landscape approach. But if you want to find out more, you can head on to our website. There's like a few write-ups and a letter to editor which you can refer to it for now. Okay, so when we do this roadmap and also this strategy, right, there must be like compliance framework and standard which WWF Malaysia follows in delivering its vision and goals or roadmap. Maybe Dr. Henry, you can elaborate further on this.
So under the New Deal for People and Nature, we have the half, yeah, the reducing our footprint by half. So this relates to the commodity production, managing protected areas and so on. So under the national parks, we have two instruments that we're using. The first is what we call METT, which is Managing Effectiveness Tracking Tool. This provide a set of standards where protected area managers can then manage their national parks. This includes how much resources they have per nature, how much people they have to manage the park, what are the challenges that they face, and how do they address them, as well as for biodiversity and for people living near or within the park. We have a very important tool for tiger conservation.
Right.
It is called Conservation Assured Tiger Standards, CATS. So Rio Belum is the first protected area that has been registered and certified. Yeah, and upcoming we will have Taman Negara as well as Endau Rompin State Park in Johor to be registered. Yeah, to be assessed under this CATS. For the commodities timber, we work with the Malaysian standards, called the Malaysian Timber Certification Council, MTCC, to develop standards for forest management, aligning with our international standards called the Forest Stewardship Council. For palm oil, we work with the agencies on the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil, MSPO, as well as the internationally recognized standards called RSPO. So these are some of the examples that we have here in ensuring that whatever that we do will follow international standards of compliance. Yeah.
So, like, you have all this compliance, this METT, this CATS, RSPO, MSPO, but why is this compliance standard and certification important?
So typically, any natural resources like timber, palm oil, fisheries and aquaculture and so forth, they are regulated by law. Yeah, it's all about adhering to the regulations. So what we need is a third party. All right, third party independent of this government as well as as a producer. So it goes by standards. Yeah, it goes by certification. So in Europe, in North America and Japan, for forest, it will be FSC, which is Forest Stewardship Council. So if you look at some of the products like under Nestle or some of the milk carton or drink carton, you see the FSC certified. For palm oil products, cakes and pastries and deodorants, just know that deodorant and lipstick also use palm oil products. Yeah, then they have the RSPO certification. Then, as a consumer, you can be assured that the products that you're using and consuming is actually helping to conserve the environment. So the third party assurance through certification is very crucial to give that assurance and confidence to the consumer from all over the world.
Dr. Henry, just now you mentioned right earlier about the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, right? So how do WWF Malaysia aligns with the global conservation priorities to ensure that we as a nation stand tall among the communities on the international level?
Yeah. Perhaps let me talk about the three global conventions here, the Sustainable Development Goals, to ensure that, leaving nobody behind in terms of poverty eradication. We talk about combating climate crisis to prevent our warming to 2 degrees Celsius above compared to the industrial age. We have also the biodiversity conference here. It all stems back in 1992 during the first Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro,
In Brazil.
in Brazil, where the Agenda 21 came about. Yeah, so it sets out 21 targets where the global community, as agreed by the nations, would come about. So that Earth Summit gave birth to two conventions: the Climate Convention as well as biodiversity. So every year or every 2 years, according to the conventions, countries of the world would converge and they agree to what collectively they want to combat the crisis facing the world. These are called the parties, parties of the convention, or convention of parties, called COP, COP. So I wanted to talk about two things. Yeah, first is about the Paris Agreement. So back in early 20s, where we have governments coming together in Glasgow, so called the Glasgow COP, where we have committed as a global community to ensure that we achieve net zero by 2050 for countries, and for private companies, net zero by 2040. Now, what does this mean? And the net zero means that we reduce our carbon emission or ESG emission to the maximum extent possible, and we increase our natural carbon sink, which is forest, to absorb the carbon. So by that duration, 2040 for private companies, for governments is 2050 or 2060. We zero out our carbon emission. Yeah. So this is very crucial. And for us, WWF, I would be very happy to say that we've actually played a crucial role in mobilizing Malaysia as a country to embrace net zero. So together with the Boston Consulting Group, BCG, we undertook a study to look at how Malaysia can achieve net zero by 2050. We did analysis looking at different sources of emissions from different sectors, from energy production, transportation, industry, land use, and so forth, and how much all for us. We find that we actually, Malaysia can achieve net zero by 2050. So in order for us to have low carbon, we must make sure that the power that powers our manufacturing base, which is electricity, is not produced from dirty energy, which is coal. Yeah, so we need to phase out. And secondly, the forest that we have, the 18 million hectare of forest that we have, actually absorbs 3/4 of our emission. That last 1/4, which is about 100 million ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, when we are able to achieve net zero by 2050, it means that we have a 30-year time horizon to achieve net zero. And we need an investments of US 90 billion. It seems a lot of money, but if we divide it over 30 years, we only need $3 billion per year to achieve net zero as we plan forward by 2050. So $3 billion per year is less than 1% of our GDP. The second one is about the Convention on Biological Diversity, where the global community met up in Montreal in about 2022 to discuss and agree on a new target. It's called the Global Boundary Framework 30 by 30. 30 by 30 means that by 2030, 30% of our planet collectively is well conserved and managed. So we, WWF-Malaysia, together with our partners and the government, organized an event in Montreal during the convention to showcase how private company have set land aside for wildlife corridor. The example I mentioned earlier, Sabah Sawit, setting land aside 1,000 hectares. We have another company called Sawit Kinabalu, who actually have conservation area. So the idea is that when you have good policies, in this case, Sabah state has aspired for 30% of the whole area to be protected and 50% to be forest covered. You have companies who step up, to be responsible. So we said that if Malaysia provides a policy framework that accommodates and register protected area, or what we call conservation area, managed by company and local communities, we can achieve the target of 30% of Malaysia well conserved. So with that, Malaysia agreed, to the CBD target 20 by 30. So I would say that we play a major role in helping Malaysia, agree to that decision of the GBF target by 30 by 30.
Right. Instrumental role WWF Malaysia work closely with the private sectors, the local communities and government to achieve these global conventions, goals and vision. Okay, so Dr. Henry, now we are in 2026. We are moving closer to 2030. How would you define the success of this roadmap?
So Justin, do you remember? I bet you don't.
Yeah.
You and I actually produced an opinion piece last year.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
What's the name of the article?
This was this the 13 Malaysia Plan one, right?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. I remember.
Alright. So-
yeah. It's like Malaysia to a wildlife friendly nation, right? Something like that.
Got
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Just I thought you had forgotten.
Oh no, I remember. I remember everything. We worked together. All right.
So that opinion piece, that we released ahead of the 13 Malaysia Plan. That was tabled in Parliament for the 13 Malaysia Plan is this year, 2026 to 2030. So it was tabled in Parliament last year in 2025.
That's right.
So ahead of that, I actually, produced the article with your help. It's titled "Branding Malaysia as a Wildlife-Friendly Nation." Yeah, so you can go to the website and the article will appear. So in that thought leadership article, I lay out 4 areas as a foundation for a wildlife-friendly Malaysia, which I hope it can be my legacy and my hope
Yeah.
as well. Actually, each of the 4 foundation areas has been undertaken by our country. Yeah? So this layout, the first one is that we need to ensure that 50% of Malaysia, as committed by our country and by our Prime Minister back in the 1992 Earth Summit, that we would keep at least 50% of Malaysia under forest cover. Now, this is 20 million hectare. So if we have the 20 million hectare well protected, conserved, and interconnected, we are sure that our wildlife have the sufficient space for the protection and for them to thrive. Now, secondly, the article lays out the other 20% of Malaysia, which as a country, we have designated or kept for palm oil production. So if the entire 20% of Malaysia's land mass, which is 6.5 million hectare, if all this palm oil is actually 100% certified towards palm oil standards, we can also lay the foundation for our wildlife. So as I said earlier, Sabah Sawut and Sawat Kinabalu are 2 palm oil companies, and they have set land aside for the forest to be connected. So imagine if of all our forests are well connected through provision of land by the palm oil companies, then we can have all the forests they are interconnected. Now this leads to the third element, which is the district area plan. Under our country, we have what we call the National Physical Plan. The National Physical Plan informs us 3 categories of land users: environmental sensitive area 1, 2, and 3. Environmentally sensitive area ESA 1 is area so sensitive you cannot allow anything there, not even for tourism, unless it's for backpackers like you and I who camp in the forest,
okay.
right? Set hammock in the tent.
Right.
We do not count on the trees. That is possible, yeah. So this is ESA 1. ESA 2 is places that are mountains, source of rivers, and so forth. But if you could manage natural resource properly, like sustainable forest management and the certification, then forest management is permitted. Yeah. So this is ESA 2. Now ESA 3 would be land that is undulating, and you can actually do plantation. By well managed plantation, then erosion, water services can be protected. So there's a national physical plan. At the state level, we have the state structure plan where the national physical plan is being translated at the state level, and at the district level, which is the lowest administrative layer of governance, we have the district area plan. Now, when we talk about high forest, palm oil, and so forth, all legislated and underpinned by biodiversity conservation, then we can translate Malaysia into different districts. Now, imagine in the high forest districts of Ulu Perak, which is Greek, Wamosang, which is in Kelantan, and Lipis, which you just mentioned earlier in Pahang. All these districts are clustered together, and you have the forests. They are interconnected through wildlife corridors, and actually we have done that already. It's called Central Forest Spine Master Plan.
Okay.
The CFS Master
Right.
Plan, which actually is the instrument that connects the entire main range, the Banjar Titi Wangsa, as a contiguous forest. Yeah, if these districts within the CFS Master Plan is clustered and legislated together, yeah, of course, yeah, they all are different district under different jurisdiction, but they're all underpinned by wildlife corridors, well-managed ecosystems, rivers, and so forth. Then it sets the foundation for wildlife to thrive. Yeah, so we have similar class of district in Sabah and Sarawak. Sabah and Sarawak, it will be under the Hard Borneo initiative of the governments. Yeah, so when these three elements, right, of 50% forest cover, they are interconnected to the wildlife landscape, on the palm oil landscape, and legislated by law, then we bring in the fourth element, which is the living landscape approach. Now, the living landscape approach is the WWF-Malaysia's our pioneering initiative that brings all the different elements together through the three pillars of protect, produce, and restore. By protect, it means that we protect all the important places for biodiversity conservation, for ecosystem services. These are the forests, wildlife habitat. Number two, it would be to work with the plantation companies to ensure that they embrace sustainability, the standards that we talked about earlier. Palm oil will be RSPO and MSPO. Forest, it will be under FSC and Malaysian standards for certification. The third area would be for restoration. Now, going back to the second pillar about production, if a private company have embraced sustainability, they know what is important, yeah, and they know what are the problems. So what then is the problem? The problem is that the license in between forests, and they are the cause of the fragmentation of forests.
Correct.
The solution then is to restore, to connect.
Yes.
So they themselves would then find it very important that we want to contribute our land, to restore the corridors. This what gave rise to Sabah Southwood and Sawi Kanabalu, KLK, Esikatri, and so forth, to reconnect. Yeah. So when we talk about this LA, right, it brings different things together. Now it looks good because we got the government,
Private sector, local communities.
and restore. So lastly, the article talks about, so it was very long article,
Right.
4 areas.
Indeed.
But to transform Malaysia as a wildlife-friendly nation, all these things must come together. Yeah. So once biodiversity, wildlife, and so forth, being protected, conserved over large area, they're thriving, then it lays the foundation for a wildlife-friendly Malaysia. A wildlife-friendly Malaysia will then lead towards branding of our products as tiger-friendly, orangutan-friendly, elephant-friendly. And then consumers, like the banks, like the hotels, boardroom, would then want to use our products because we are giving them assurance that our products are friendly, supporting wildlife conservation. That is the hope that we have for Malaysia, that by 2030, we have a few clusters of districts. They are well legislated, that gives assurance that our tigers, our orangutan, and our turtles are well protected. And that's led the pathway for Malaysia as a sustainable nation.
Wow. It's a huge, a lot of things coming together. Future, a lot of stakeholders, the vision to move forward. But I'm sure we are on the right track, towards that sustainable nation 2030. So, Dr. Henry, you were mentioning about, all this vision, the progress, the achievements so far. And I'm sure next we might have a roadmap 2031 to 2040. You might be part of it, you might not be part of it, we don't know. But what is the legacy you want to leave behind over this 10 years roadmap? And how can the everyday rakyat be part of this journey?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Right. So the average Malaysian, the person on the street, we shouldn't just lump them together, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to our 5 categories of stakeholders that we
Yep.
talked about earlier. So let's say they are our list, right? Living in our landscape. So what we hope is that they would work with us and help to conserve and protect the environment. As I said earlier, we have example of the women in the Omanau Island in Sabah who actually come together and protect the beaches for turtle conservation. So imagine if all the kampongs, in Terengganu, Pahang in Kelantan, or in Malacca, in Sabah, Sarawak, they all come together, right, to make sure that beaches where the turtles come to lay egg are well protected. Then we can ensure that the turtle population would grow. Yeah. For the policymakers, right, I hope our Prime Minister, members of the cabinet would also play an important role because they are our custodians, they are our stewards, right? So if they lay down good policies and enabling conditions that allows Malaysia or that promotes Malaysia, to be sustainable, like tax incentive, for instance, tax holidays, for private companies that are embracing innovative solutions that ensures that our country is well conserved and protected. So you will attract investments from overseas coming in. For private companies, then we hope that at different layers, the chairman of the board, the CEOs, the C-suites, as well as every level of the company, actually embrace the principles of sustainability and make sure that the companies actually undertake the operation, set aside sufficient budget, OPEX and CAPEX, for sustainable activities. And then, it will turn the whole private sector, the whole economy of Malaysia to be really sustainable, as we said earlier, towards brand Malaysia
Right.
as wildlife friendly. We also need, the students, right? We have millions of students. So please ensure that you take out, science subjects for the environment, not just to score A,
Yeah.
but really to inculcate into your values, right? Living a value. So I think every person in Malaysia has a role to play. And lastly, we as a consumer, when we buy products, we try to look at numbers. What is the ingredient, right? Where do they come from?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have standards?
Yeah.
Do they have FSC or MSP or MS or for marine product MSC, or for aquaculture, the salmons that you eat, the sashimi that you eat, is it MSC? Is it ASC? Right? So as a consumer, when we are well aware and willing to pay a price for those certified products, then it would drive the whole economy to be sustainable. So as consumer, we should really make a point that let us make a commitment to buy things that is of value, and that value is associated with the environment and wildlife protection.
Right. So thank you so much, Dr. Henry, our Senior Director, Strategic Conservation Partnership. Cracking start to Season 2 of Pandangan Panda. We are recording at Portworks. Check them out on their website and also social media. And if you want to contribute to WWF Malaysia's conservation effort, click on the link below. And this beautiful t-shirt here I'm wearing was produced in conjunction with Earth Hour 2026. Check out our Panda shop. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to WWF Malaysia's social media channels, our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We have a lot more of wonderful content just for you guys. My name is Justin. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.